Sunday, 30th of October 2022, in this evening's show, we will be purring over Gary goals-inspired victory, which saw a team like Blackpool overturn a half-term deficit to come away with all 3 points at the Coventry Building Society Arena. I'm glad about that down in my notes. So I'm John Aspinall, this is Seaside's podcast match reaction show. Coventry City 1, Blackpool 2.
It's already changed the world. A small town from the north of England with a great tradition.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Seasiders podcast match reaction show on a Sunday evening. And for the eagle-eyed viewers out there, Tim, they will see a couple of loan signings in the panel. Would you like to introduce them?
Yes, I thought it was Matt before I saw Kev's name come up there. Anyway, it looked the same. Slightly brighter background than Matt's gothic efforts that we normally get. But
I can't promise to be an upgrade, I'm afraid, but I'm going to try my hardest to emulate his spirit.
Kev, I'm also getting a Carl Pilkington vibe as well. Have you ever had that before?
Funnily enough, you're the first person that's ever said that. I mean, the guy's been ripping off my act for about the last 10 years and made millions out of it, but I'm not remotely bitter.
So, Kev, always welcome, Kev. Just tell us a very brief bit about yourself. How come you're a Blackpool fan? Etc.
Well, to be honest, I've been a massive fan of the Seasiders podcast for some years, and then I started going to watch Blackpool on the back of that. No,
sign him up, Tim. Yeah. 3+1. 3+1.
Brown nosy. No, first game I think was it was under Billy Eyre. It was just after the Scunthorpe game. Plymouth at home in about '93. I think Dave Bamber scored. Obviously hooked from the get-go. But I've been following the pool for 30 years. Wouldn't have it any other way. The lows are as good as the highs as far as I'm concerned, and anybody that doesn't get that about supporting a football club, do something else for your time.
Or support Man United or Liverpool.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, naturally coming on, making my debut after a absolutely resounding victory 2 on the bounce is not sort of what I'd have had. I mean, ideally would have just got done 5-0 at home by York or something, but there's always next time, isn't there?
Well, we have been accused, Tim, of being morbid on this show on quite a few occasions, but there's nothing to be morbid about, not at least on the last 2 games. But the whole box that we were in, that was like there was like a death march afterwards, trudging out.
It did take you back to the good old days, didn't it? That game. Just to remind you that
being a Blackpool fan's a roller coaster ride. Well, I've never heard that one before, have I? Anyway, we've also got Pete Dixon. Pete, welcome. You've been threatening to come on a couple of times, and we finally got you on. So welcome.
I missed last week's. I left my phone in the car. And Preston, what a debut that would have been.
I know. Well, lesson learned, eh?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think me and Pete, we go back. I think we first really met when we went to the AVFTT9 meeting with Carl, didn't we? Carl
and Matt, yeah. I didn't go.
Oh, you went to the preview thing we did, didn't you?
Yeah. We sort of had quite a lot of contact back in the days, didn't we?
Yeah.
I think it might be quite a nice little story to embellish there, Tim. Pete, what was the meeting about for those that don't know, and what happened at it?
Those who sort of frequented AVFTT back then, and this is the Premier League year, will remember that Carl allegedly used to post under various pseudonyms and Harry Potter,
the Dark Lord,
yeah, the Dark Lord, and a few other choice ones, he. I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Darren Robertson actually, but he was having a bit of a contretemps on AVFT.
Oh, hang on a minute. Jesus. That's it.
With he was having a bit of a to and fro was going on, and basically I think it was Darren who just basically called him out and said, "Why don't you meet a group of us?" So it ended up. He said, "Yeah, as long as there's nobody going to be hiding behind a username, you've got to say who you are." And I think you had to be a season ticket holder as well, didn't you? Did he say? Because I know we had a pre-meeting, didn't we, in the old Seafarers bar?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we did.
And yeah, I remember you because you came to that, but then because where you live, you couldn't make it to the actual meeting, and so we weren't quite sure how it was going to play out. But there was nine. Obviously, you might guess, 9 of us went in, and it was interesting. It started as it meant to go on when Carl disclosed that unfortunately he couldn't offer us a drink because he couldn't find the key to the drinks cabinet. So
old habits die hard, eh? Carl?
Yeah, it was a stranger one, but Phil Corbett was there. Ian at Bedfordshire Seaside. I want Ian Outram, myself, Darren Robertson, who's BFC ×3 on there.
Phil Corbett.
Yeah, said Phil. I know that Sangron and Dirt was there. Who?
Oh yeah,
he was a bit of an enigma, wasn't he?
Oh.
And I didn't see him for years afterwards. And then the next time I saw Sangron and Dirt was at the infamous meeting in the cellar of what's now the Armfield Club when Carl and Glenn Bowley turned up, and he just happened.
Was it Michael Savage? Was that his name?
Michael Savage, yeah, that was it. So it was an interesting old hour and a half, and because he broke ranks, because Carl said, "Oh, let's issue some agreed minutes," and that took forever and a day to agree. And in the meantime, Savage sort of broke ranks and put it all on AVFTT. So
I suppose it was the era of the bomb spiders and the tangerine tinted specs as well, wasn't it?
Vein bulges.
Yeah,
the vein bulges and the bomb spiders.
The vein bulges,
yeah.
Yeah, another view from the bridge was one of his as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, blimey.
Michael, are you Michael Preston? Laughing about this yesterday. I was forcing a.
It must be. You were absolutely slaughtering him last week, so I suspect.
Slaughtering's a very harsh word, Tim. Giving him
telling him to change his surname.
Looks like he has.
It looks like he has.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pete, how long have you been supporting Blackpool for? Are you more vintage? Are you more vintage than Tim?
I think I'm not sure. I probably am. He's older than me, obviously, but I think my first game I did a bit of research because I know you like a bit of stato on here just before I came on, and just to get the date, it was the 23rd of October 1970 at Bloomfield Road, 2 p.m. kickoff, and it was Blackpool 3, Chelsea 4. That famous game when we were 3-0 up at half time. I'd managed to capitulate horribly in the second half and lose 4-3 to an own goal, the last goal. It was horrible.
Memorable game.
And it's been like that ever since, really.
It sounds like ground zero, doesn't it, for the next 50 years? Yeah.
Yeah. Highs and lows.
So it's not a bad debut season, though, is it, in the first division? I suppose.
No.
It's all downhill from there, really, wasn't it?
The season before, but it was a good season to start. It was.
But
29, nearly 30,000 there that day.
Christ, you've seen Bloomfield Road with 30,000 on. Wow.
Yeah.
I think there was one game, wasn't there, just went over 30. Was that Everton?
Everton, yeah.
Everton was the largest crowd, wasn't it?
Got lots out. Yeah, lots out of that.
Times change, eh? My first game was 0-0 at home to Gillingham. 3,500 now, I think.
0-0, another 0-0 here as well.
Was it?
1978, 79. So Pete obviously has a few years on me.
Yeah, just a few.
Kev, first game. Do you remember it?
Yeah, Plymouth at home, 93, I think. I mean, I'm younger than I look, to be honest.
No comment.
Yeah, I just remember being taken by Gary Briggs, being a rather robust fella, and as a sort of impressionable 8 or 9 year old, that was all it took to hook me in.
Richard Watkin beat that. Peters went to Bloomfield Road when I was 9 in '67, and we lost to Chelsea 2-0. So it's a running theme, isn't it? Losing to Chelsea on you.
Was it Richard who was taking the photographs at the
It
front?
was, yeah, Richard. It was. I remember. I sort of understood. I got who you were afterwards. You should have said hello, Richard. But yeah, Richard took some fantastic photos of the day, didn't he? Both in and out of the stadium.
Yeah, he's got me going 1-1 at the fans to the left, not where most of them were, it's the other side, but somebody was giving it large all game up until us equalising. So when I just did the old, got him off the camera there, 1-1 at one.
Yeah.
He caught
Iconic,
that.
Tim. That picture, iconic.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'll sign a few copies if Richard wants to try and hit eBay with them.
Right. Anyway, we're here for a match reaction to Coventry 1, Blackpool 2. The journey up there, Tim, you obviously went on the train, but the journey by car was a bit of a nightmare. I'm just thankful that I had Siri and Apple Maps, which got us through the vast majority of the crap on the M6. I think it was just south of Knutsford.
There's a car turned over, wasn't there? Or something over a van.
A car and a lorry. It was an overturned lorry. There's two sections of accidents. I was like, I don't believe this. So I've just finished the grassroots game, Polton, and we left about 11:30. I thought that's just enough time. I was like, looked at the maps. It's like an hour delay. I was like, oh, for God's sake! But
I just lived up to the caricature of myself and put my chinos on, got on the train, and did a bit of cultural sightseeing. And before going for a nice lunch in an English 16th century country inn.
That's not what you said before the show.
Tim has already bored me with this twice, so I'm not going to inflict it on the viewers. And we're going to go.
I think there's a new Channel 4 series to be done, though. You know, great football journeys to Championship football grounds. I think we can.
With Tim Fielding and Michael Portillo.
Exactly. It's a winner.
Same people, aren't
Yeah. Right, let's look at the team sheet before we start talking about 16th century inns and all that crap. Just made that bigger. Kev, Chris Maxwell, Callum Conley, Marvin Epiteta, Thornley, Husband, Dougal, Carey, Patino, Hamilton, Medine, and Yates. What did you think of that team sheet when you saw it?
Well, after the previous week, I mean, obviously there was a big clamour to get Grant Ward in there at right back this week, but I think it made total sense, didn't it? Carey changed the game last week. The only change, I think, you know, the other changes you could have made. I mean, it depended on whether Thornley and Husband had sort of shaken off the knocks. You know, CJ's the only real other one, but he'd been that good on a sort of a CJ spectrum anyway. The last couple of weeks, that the guy deserved another run out, and I think we all know that sooner or later he'll do enough to knock himself out the team somehow. But I think it was the team picked itself, frankly.
Yeah, Dave Coleman's just said in the chat. Their team picked itself. Pete, as Kev's just said, it had been incredibly harsh not to start CJ after his performance against PNE. Good to see him on the team sheet. Pete,
he had another good game as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He did. Yeah.
Yeah.
He did.
I think what Dave said on the messages, I think, it picked itself really. It was going to be injuries, if anything, that was going to change it. Unfortunately, they all sort of cobbled through, didn't they?
Tim, anything to add before we go on to the game?
No,
itself?
I think that it sort of just endorse what the people says. I think, you know, Athers called it right with his team. I saw his team sheet pre-match. I think it was that one. I think most of us, if we'd done the same task, would have arrived at the same conclusion. It was a bit of a no-brainer, really.
Yeah. Weirdly, Tim, how warm was it at the game? I turned up with a base layer on, a really thick hoodie, really hat, coat, scarf, gloves, all the clothing that you need for the back end of October, and it was like a season opener.
Now, to be fair, I did have an inkling because I'd done the old forecast job before set off, and I'd messaged Colin who I went with and said, pack your sunglasses, it's like 19 degrees down there, and it was positively balmy. I mean, to be honest, even after the game, I mean, inside the ground, not in the sun, and it was too hot to wear your coat, wasn't it? It was, and sometimes, like last week against Preston, in the sun, it was very warm, but I suspect out of the sun, it was a bit chillier, but absolutely fantastic. And even like about 7 o'clock at night, going around Coventry, all the outside areas of all the bars were packed because it was still pretty warm. It was got to make the most of it, haven't you? Because it's winter's coming, isn't it? And if you get the opportunity to have a last good weekend out or whatever it is in a bit of warmth, you got to make the most of it. So yeah, it was great.
Nice stadium as well. I've been once before, but it was a night game, pitch black. I couldn't really see much apart from inside the stadium. You don't realise it's a huge complex, isn't it? The whole setup.
I mean, I'd not come that side before. When I've previously come, and I'm going back to 2009, 2010 season, because the last time I went to watch Coventry, obviously they're playing at Birmingham, and I'd not seen it from that side. And the other side is quite imposing because it's quite high up. There's a bit, I think, if I remember right, there's quite a big drop the other side. But yeah, very, very impressive, whichever way around you come at it.
They're not going to be there for long, though, are they?
We were chatting to them pre-match, and to be honest, it is. I mean, they were one of the groups like at the vanguard of fan issues with owners, as we were going back 2014, 2015 with Sisu and all the issues they had to deal with there. And I felt quite sorry for them because like we've come out of it, and most other teams who've been in those issues have come out of it, and yet they seem to be going back into it. I mean, they seem to have been hit by a transfer embargo today as a result of unpaid VAT. They don't know where they're playing on Tuesday against Blackburn, and this is all to do with, for those who are aware, mainly to do with Wasps. London Wasps have bought the stadium or got the long lease of the stadium, and they're in a right mess. And but nobody quite knows what's going to happen. That's why they had the games postponed at the beginning of the season, because Wasps weren't maintaining the pitch properly, and it's the big problem is they don't own the stadium. Because they don't own the stadium, they don't own the revenue streams linked to it, and they're basically beholden to third parties, and that's been the sort of historic problem they've had to deal with ever since they moved there. And again, for those of a certain vintage, will remember Highfield Road and what a great ground that was in the city centre, the first all-seater ground in the country. But it was a fantastic atmosphere when you went there, because you were right on top of the pitch, and it was the right size for them, wasn't it, Pete? It was like 22,000, and it was packed. Well, not whether it's packed or not. I mean, in the 80s and 90s, attendances dropped off, but they had 19,000 there yesterday, and it only felt half full.
Yeah.
And that's their big problem. It works in the Premier League, and I think that's what when they moved into that ground, they've been in what's the Premier League or the early versions of it, Division 1, since 1967, the year I was born, and never been out of it. So they'd spent the thick end of 40 years in the top flight, and as soon as they move into that stadium, they get relegated. So and they've never been back. So it's been an incredibly bad move on all sorts of levels. But notwithstanding that, it's a superb stadium. And but even with 19,000, it felt empty. It's you've got to have 25 at least in there, I think, to make it to generate any sort of real significant atmosphere. To be fair, I thought that because they were all on one side, which if you look at it, looked worse, I think, if you're watching it on the TV, because TV cameras were on the side of where they all were. But they did all sort of crowd together a bit, and for a home team, they were a lot noisier than some of the teams we've been to recently. Sheffield United being one that stood out nearly full, and yet they were quiet as dormice.
I feel Road was a dangerous place if you got caught coming out in and spotted. Glenn King's just...
We're all dangerous in them days.
We got there was quite an unpleasant atmosphere coming out, Tim. And we'll go into the game in a minute. I don't know do you know, after we were just walking down with you, we doubled back We're getting all sorts of nasty looks and nasty comments from quite a lot of Coventry fans. I think it was quite a bitter bunch, and I don't know why. We were with 2 kids as well, a woman. It was it was just odd. I just found them to be quite unpleasant.
Other than that bit where, as we were walking away, were you there where they closed the bridge off for a little while? I don't know what all that was about, but apart from that, I found them, all very engaging and wanting to talk about what's going on with them and how that compares to what's happened to us, which was, from my perspective, that's what you want from a pre-match and a post-match, because we went back to where we had been before just for half an hour or so.
I think there's still a sense, and you can understand this a little bit, that some of these sides don't really like losing to Blackpool, do they?
Teams like Blackpool, all over their socials. I think they've got ideas above the station a bit. Coventry probably still think they're in the Premier League.
It's like I've lived in Sheffield for sort of most of the last 20 years, and every time we go there, they assume it's going to be an easy 3 points, and that's at the Massive or at the Blades, and it's turning out to be quite a fertile sort of hunting ground for us, isn't it? I mean, I remember that game, I don't know, season about 15 years ago, where I think we beat Wednesday 4 times, including a couple in the whatever it was then, the LDV, and sort of good times, but such bitterness.
I remember when we played Sheffield Wednesday. I think we were in the Premier League at the time. I'm sure we played them in a cup, and all our fans were chanting, "You're only here for the Wednesday." That song.
Well, they're massive, aren't they?
Yeah, huge.
Biggest club in the world.
Anyway, onto the game then. Obviously, M6 was a nightmare, unseasonable warmth, but certainly a red hot start from Blackpool, Kev, wasn't it? Partridge-esque link there.
Do you know what? I know it's sort of quite a big old ground, isn't it? And the pitch, it's like playing football on a wide open prairie. But it looked like we got 14 men out there for the first 10, 15 minutes. Just tore at them in a way that, not seen a Blackpool side do at this level since we're on the up last time.
Ipswich at home. Do you remember Ipswich at home?
Was that the 6-0 game?
Yeah. And Leeds. Do you remember? It reminded me of those 2 games. The first.
We won the first 3, didn't we? I remember that because I'd had a bet against us in all 3 of them, I think. Isaiah Osborne that played that. Yeah.
It was like Vieira, wasn't he?
Yeah, they were brilliant, but you know what happens when you don't score, and so it came to pass. Not jumping ahead because a series of near misses to run through first. But yeah, I thought they were brilliant coming out the blocks, and it does sort of it sort of encapsulates, I think, what we're getting from a Michael Appleton side that maybe we were never going to get from sort of the more pragmatic, albeit very, very effective Critchley side. He does give you that impression that he wants to play, and when he says I want to play 4-3-3, all right, there's times when it is going to be a 5 across the middle because we're playing against good sides with 10 times the budget, but it looked like a proper 4-3-3, trying to get on the front foot and play the ball, and that if that's what we want to see. It's not always going to be realistic, but yeah, it's fantastic.
Tim Gazmadine has had 2 great chances in the first half.
Arguably, most certainly one of them more difficult to miss than to score. I think I have a lot. I think the first one was it, and we're coming back to speak about this player quite a bit tonight. It was a through ball from Carey, wasn't it?
Carey,
who sliced there. What I really liked about the start of that move was he picked the ball up and he drove forward, and that's what we've wanted to see from our midfield players for so long. None of this crab football. He picked it up and he went towards the goal and into the danger area, and then did a sublime pass that split through the defence, and Gary Goals was as anticipated it really, really well. Took it slightly to the right, as I recall, to try and create an angle. And the keeper did, on that one, I think the keeper did a fantastic job of staying big.
Stood up well, didn't he?
Yeah, because when I saw it from the other end, because we were behind the other goal, I remember saying to Collar, I was with, I said, why did he just chip him? But to be fair to the keeper, he stood up and he kept himself big. So I take that back. I just think it was a great move and a good save from their keeper.
It's that first one, isn't it? That's the real sort of glaring miss. Was it first minute, second minute? I think it might have been Carey got down the right, and he's almost gone with the inside of his foot, and he's just sort of skewed it wide of the post.
It went like a rocket, to be fair. The ball was a great ball. It had to be. It was just a sort of funny height. Just if it could have hit it with anything, it would have gone in. But it's just, I think it was just a bit. No, I don't know. I might be being too soft on him, but I thought it was it was more difficult than it seemed. I know he's only about 3 inches out. But
well, to be honest, it's a good sign when Big Gazzy's getting across that front post, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd like to know what
he made a great run. Yeah.
I could do with some of it. He was phenomenal yesterday.
I think he made a funny comment about, again, getting ahead on his goal. He said, I've never seen Hubby meet the first man on a cross, so I thought I'd just wait here and see what happened. So he's read that situation perfectly.
Quality.
Yeah, Pete, Big Gaz had another chance. Played into the box by Dougal. I think we were talking about this in the green room, weren't we? Broke to Thornley, and Thornley floated in a great ball into the box. And Gaz's, the flexibility of Gaz's groin just not up to it to poke it home.
And I think he mentioned, did he mention that after the game? That he struggled. I mean, it might have been the other night when he was playing, or the other day when he was playing against Preston, he was struggling. But yeah,
he was trying to replicate Erling Haaland, wasn't he, from the other week? Yeah. Gaz were doing that one. I thought maybe 10 years ago, Gaz.
There was another fantastic pass from Thornley as well. He pinged some lovely stuff in with his left foot.
It's sort of tennis ball bounced, doesn't it, off probably one of those rugby divots. It's pretty much crossbar high by the time he's tried to kung fu it in a.
Yeah, I thought they were all fairly difficult chances, to be fair, but he probably scored from the most difficult one because it wasn't the best ever. It wasn't the best cross in the world from Hubby. To be fair, he was right.
The referee, so he looks like a grey-haired mod. He listens to The Who, and he's called Mr. Bond. I think he's reffed us before. Notice that.
Quality.
So if you could think of any Bond puns as we go through this show, you'll get 10 extra points if you get it in. Right, yeah. So Cov have hit the post after that, Tim. Did Maxi get a touch on it, if you remember? A guy called Charlie Allen, a little live wire, a tiny little player. They broke down the right. Balls come in. You can see the cogs working in his brain. It's in front of us.
If it's the one that was on the left-hand post, yeah, he did. I would have said.
Did he get something on it? Because I was quite high up.
I thought he did. Yeah. And in fact, I'd never mind. I would, as best I can recall, having had about 7 pints. Yes.
Where were you in the ground, by the way? Were you near a pitch level?
Just in the front, just in front of, or just behind others as well, on about row 4 or something.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, they came into it, Coventry, didn't they? To be fair, we after as was said before by Kev, we sort of absolutely dominated that first 20 minutes. But as the game wore on, they just seemed to get into it more and more, and the game became more even. If anything, I think they were probably the better team for the last 20 minutes of the half, and we had to. They had a fair few pot shots I think in advance of the goal, I think that was only the one I remember where I was really worried. But they definitely came into the game and start because they'd had they played the game with no strikers, didn't they? Because they'd had a last minute bug go around the team, and the 4 players had to drop out, and they're all the more forward players. And if you watch some of their vlogs post match, they're all saying they couldn't get their head around the team because it's like us turning up and having no Lavery, no Yates, no Badine, no Hamilton, and they're having to like shove players from midfield into the forward positions to basically get a team out.
It was like that Scotland formation 6-4-0, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I think they probably took a little bit of time to adapt, and that might have been part of the reasons why we were able to sort of dominate possession in the way that we did in that golden period. It was a real golden period. It's played some of the best football. I think it's most certainly the best football we've played under Appleton, and arguably some of the best football we've played since we got back in the Championship.
Yeah,
Kev, so coming, as Tim's just said, do you think it gave them a bit of a lift? The fact that we should be 3 or 4 up at this point.
Well, it's bound to. Yeah. Bound to, isn't it? It's and the boot's been on the other foot plenty of times where you're thinking we could be 12 down at half time, and then someone like Bowler's popped up and dribbled past 3 and we're ahead when we don't deserve to be. It's one of them. But I mean, I think the fact that we'd had a lot of the ball and we were sort of trying to take the game to Cov, and the fact that they've got about 4 number 8s out there in various sort of positions in the midfield, it just meant that when they broke quickly, and they broke effectively with the ball, and they did look a threat on the.
It was a good, very well worked goal as well.
It was a great goal. It was a great goal.
Judd.
Did we have the Carey shot against the post before that? Was it after it? I can't remember.
Oh yeah, I've forgotten about that as well. Yeah, you're right, Pete. Yeah,
another
great piece of skill.
Yeah, it was.
The crossfield
ball. I had it down as being later on in the game. It's just, but yeah, when I watched it back before, he did fantastic. He did fantastically well, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another goal. It's another chance.
That was a good ball from Connolly. Over to him. Connolly, he was really good as well yesterday.
Yeah. So Tim, we've gone down at half time, 1-0 down, unbelievably 1-0 down.
You forget we had the
disallowed
goal in the last minute,
of course.
And I was celebrating. I mean, the linesman was so late putting his flag up. I've watched it a few times back now because nobody could believe it was disallowed. Because obviously Medine, I can't remember who put the ball in now. Was it another Thornley? And Gaz, and it was Gaz's header, and it was going right in the bottom, as you look at it, the bottom left-hand corner. And CJ's lurking there, and I'm still trying to work out whether he's actually touched it.
You say he's lurking there. He's practically in the stand, isn't he? By the time he's celebrated it going in.
Do you think he touched it? I've seen the replay, and I think it almost brushes. I don't know.
It might have brushed his shirt. I think is about as much as it does. It doesn't redirect it. Whatever happens, it doesn't redirect. But it was a pretty. To be fair, it was a great header by Medine, and
that's one of those where it's mine, isn't it, from the cross?
Yeah. So it's almost like QPR-esque, wasn't it? In that we've ended up with a player, whether he did or he didn't touch it. And that's what the debate was. I don't think, to be fair, from there the linesman wouldn't be able to tell whether he touched it or not anyway, because he's obviously 35 yards away, and you can't even really tell when you watch it back on TV. And the Coventry commentators were saying, "Oh yeah, clearly offside," but you look it back, and I just think I don't think he even touches it.
I think the problem is he's gone to play the ball, hasn't he? And if you've not touched it, you've got to make a much better sort of demonstration of being nowhere near it. Running away,
not run towards the linesman.
Yeah, not cashing your goal bonus.
Yeah, it was the fact, Tim, that the flag went up 30 seconds after the goal had gone in.
We were celebrating for ages.
I have never seen anything like that. I've never seen such a late flag. And I think what Kev's just said rings true. I think the fact that CJ's gone over to him, celebrated in front of him, celebrated he scored a goal.
He went straight for him.
If he hadn't done that, that goal would have been. I'm convinced that goal would have stood.
Yeah. Well, that's it. As a linesman, you don't chalk off a Gary Medine goal without sort of thinking twice about it, do you?
Fearing for your life.
But would CJ have been classed as interfering with a flight of the ball as well? His position, perhaps.
No, because he was stood to the left of where the ball was going. For me, I mean, if it's a little bit different than the Sheffield United 2 weeks ago, where Maxwell has 3 players in his line of sight. There's nobody he wasn't in the sight of anybody, and for me, if he doesn't touch the ball, he's not interfering with play, and it's not offside.
I suppose he might have blown it in.
I actually do think it touches his shirt.
That's
as much as it does. I don't know whether that classes as him touching it. I don't know, but
he must have felt it. I think when he must have felt something because he went off like he'd scored it, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Just one more, John, from that half. I know we sort of gone out of order, but Connolly cuts in on his left peg, doesn't he? As a big swinger. And this fella has got so much goal threat. Almost he doesn't know what to do with it. But it was the first sort of it was the first one of several again where he's popped up, and just seems to be a magnet for that ball in the box.
There was those 2 chances in the second half as well.
He should have had an hat-trick, same as Gary.
Every week.
Yeah. Pretty good from a right back, isn't it?
That's superb.
Well, he's not even a right back, is he? No problem.
Midfielder, centre back, everyone.
Don't forget, we've got the Sandy Lions to come as well from Shamrock Rovers. He can bang them in from either fullback.
He looked quite excited about seeing him, actually. I think have they finished their season now, or is it he's on the cusp of finishing, isn't it? Because they play through the summer in the Irish League.
Mm. Yeah.
So as soon as the season finishes, he comes to us.
Connolly does need finishing lessons, Andy. You are right, and he does get into great areas. A bit more practice on the grass, as a certain someone used to say. He's now collecting his UB40. All right, second half. Tim, second half. Can you remember much from it? How did we start?
I think it was. But obviously, we. It's not long after the start of the half that we actually equalised. Anyway, is it? It was off the top of my head, 50 odd minutes.
53.
53, very apt. So my recollection is we started well. I think there's been a feature of these recent performances is we're getting that ball in the box, aren't we? I mean, I was looking back thinking I can't remember scoring as many goals with our head as we've done in recent weeks. I know, obviously Jerry with his feet have been excellent as well, but you start to look at all the other goals and there's a surprisingly large number of headers, but good headers as well, not like scrambles in the box and somebody just getting the head on it from a corner or something. These are like, okay crosses, decent crosses, and positioned headers that have been sent back the way they came, and bullet headers into the corner. So I've been really, really impressed with the way that we've used the wings and we've used the wide positions, not just CJ and Yates. It's the way the fullbacks come on, and balls are not back for them, and they're putting the crosses in. It's fantastic stuff. But I think if I remember right, there's a rather strange pass from one of their defenders that Medine ends up intercepting, and he's right on the touchline. And does he knock it back to CJ? before
It's
going
Hubby.
wandering into the box, and then he in turn knocks it back to Hubby, and he almost did like a repetition of the laid back he did for Patino against Preston. It was very, very similar. But he's thinking, and he's rather than one of the big concerns I've always had about CJ, he's a bit headless chicken, and he seems to be thinking more and looking around him and seeing where people are, and it was a good layoff. Slightly better. I think Pete was a bit harsh with the cross, but it was. I get the point you're making, because it didn't go deep, did it? It was quite a shallow cross. But Medine, because he'd been involved in the start of the move, wasn't where you'd normally expect him to be. He was a bit more near post, if anything. But then we get this absolutely sublime looping header that goes over the Cov keeper and drops into the back of the net, and cue limbs and pandemonium and everything else that comes with it.
It was an incredible header.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
It was like
he trained his neck back. I don't know how he got to it to direct it like he did. It was unbelievable.
He's just watched it all the way, and it's almost like a cricketer playing a shot, just letting the ball come out the bat and just almost stroking it with his forehead. It just as good a headed goal, I think, as you'll see from a centre forward on that near stick.
Kev, just coming back to something Tim said about the fact we seem to be creating all these chances now from open play. We made Coventry look terrible yesterday, and it reminded me a bit of the way we opened up Sheffield United as well, with ease almost.
Yeah. I mean, there was a 25-minute spell, wasn't there, in at 2-0, and then as we brought the game back, where they didn't know what had hit them. I mean, I was fortunate enough to be up in a box at Bramall Lane with a load of home fans, and they turned up for a 5-0 like they do every year, as I was saying before, and they just couldn't believe it at 2 apiece. But we'd got the ball down, and we'd got it wide, and we're actually hitting Jerry into feet, which we don't seem to be capable of when Gaz isn't there. Allowing him to play in that sort of wide forward role, it just seems to open the pitch up in a way that we're not able to sort of do when we haven't got that back to goal option. I think that's part of it. I mean, Thompson's got his strengths, but having Husband at left back, I think he's just a bit more comfortable on the ball. I think that's helped a little bit, but it's that middle three, isn't it? Sort of they've tried various people in there, and to be honest, over the last 3 seasons, trying to get that middle three, because Critchley played a similar type of formation, didn't he? The balance seems to work with what Charlie's doing, although I like to see him get on the ball even more, to be honest. And Carey breaking from midfield, like Tim was saying, you've got to have someone that can break the lines, and it's rare in sort of my time as a Blackpool fan that we've had players that can do that and just ghost past players like he's doing. So there's chances can be made from all over the park at the moment, which is a pretty exciting place to be, given that we look like we were going down 3 weeks ago.
3 games ago.
Yeah.
I've
got to say, I thought Carey's performance, I've got to say this, that's one of the best midfield performances I've seen in a very, very long time. I mean, listen, that's not to take anything away from Dougal or Patino, who both played their part. But however, and he don't always do it, but the last game and a half, he has been sublime, and that his work rate is the incisive passes, the positivity. He's got
technical
particularly when you bear in mind where he's come from, it's just incredible. And he's still a very, very young lad as well. He's not much older than Patino, and it's very, very exciting to watch him when he plays like that. I've got to say, I think he's one of the best midfielders in the division when he plays like that.
I know it's been talked about quite a bit, hasn't it? But the excitement. I remember last year when we were at Huddersfield, and he's absolutely bossed it first half against them. He's gone and got his foot broken, on the hour, and then just hadn't looked anything like as sort of influential in any game that he played this year. But whatever Appleton's done with him, or whether it is the balance of that middle three, getting him in a position where he's facing their goal and doing what he's good at. You don't want him running back towards his own goal, chasing men. It's almost a little bit like Forrest Gump, isn't it? You just say, "Go, Sonny, go and drive towards the goal."
Well, that's what Appleton told him, wasn't it? When he came on, he said, "Just don't worry about the defensive side." I'm sure they said that in his post match. Just go at him, run at him, and that's what he's and he scares players when he does that.
He's like Ross Bartley or Gaza, probably with a bit of John Doolan in there as well, because he's not quite the finished article, but he's a thrill to watch.
We have nightmares about John Doolan.
We were having a conversation in the car on the way home that this midfield has got a perfect balance, and it reminds me a bit of Vaughan, Adam, and Southern. Each of those three's got similar attributes. We've got Patino in there pulling the strings, Dougal providing cover, winning the balls, and that bit of magic from Carey. So it's exciting times, isn't it? If those three can remain fit.
Well, that's it. You look forward to seeing them midweek in the West Midlands. I mean, what's Appleton going to do? He might go all Ollie and change all 11 now, just while we're on a good a good run of form. But it does feel like we can be looking up and hopefully picking up a few more points before the break and getting some of these other lads back fit again, and hopefully not having the stressful season that we may have been predicting.
And this isn't us with tangerine tinted glasses on. You've got a Coventry fan in the chat there, Ash Woodward, who suggests that the 2-1 win to us flattered them, which is nice to hear, because I do think, as we'll go on to talk about the rest of the game, that they had their chances to win the game themselves, whether that's because of our not finishing them off in the way that we should have done. But at 1-1, I think actually it could have gone either way. And if you analyse, even if you watch the highlights, you'll see that some of the Coventry's best chances come during that period before we take the lead. So it's and I don't think they're as bad as that their position suggests at the moment. I think they've had the off-field issues. They've got the problems with the pitch. They've got probably I don't know whether they've still got the games in hand, but most certainly they had a couple of games in hand. And I think they've probably got it in their locker to get out of that bottom three as well, to be honest. So I think that they're not a bad side.
They all sound like first world issues compared to what we've had to put up with, but
I think they're going to be fine. They're a good side, and they had their moments yesterday, didn't they? I mean, they did have problems, but then so have we with injuries and stuff. But they played pretty good stuff last season. They were probably the best team that we played against, weren't they? And they've been on a good run as well. People forget that the last few games they've been doing really well and scoring some cracking goals.
I think they'd lost 1 in 8 or something. So they were a form team,
Yeah, they were above us in the form table, weren't they?
Yeah.
Well, it's an interesting division. I mean, anybody that can predict 3 a drop from this league this year, that you're a better man than I am. So it's one of those. It might be a division where there's a lot of points required to stay up this year. Quite frankly,
I've seen worse teams. Not saying Coventry are bad, but like Tim said, that game could have gone either way in that final sort of the final third of the game. We had chances, they had chances, and I've seen poorer sides than Coventry. So I think if they kind of sort themselves out, I think they'll be all right. It was a great game. It was a real. I think they had more of the second half than the first half and created some good chances. They could have scored 1 or 2. We could have scored 2. Connolly, Tim should have had a brace. Could have gone 2-1 up straight after we've scored, equalised. The one where he's blazed it over
Yeah, and he actually had time to maybe even take a touch, didn't he? But I think listen, you're not going to criticise somebody for having a go first time, because sometimes they take that touch and then they close down, aren't they? But obviously, it went ballooning over the bar as a consequence. So it was a little bit frustrating, because that would have sort of settled nerves a bit and given us the edge. But yeah, I mean, we'll go back to the comments before. He seems to be able to ghost in from that right back slot and find some space. But I think it's the engine he's got on, isn't it? He's able to get up and down that pitch, and where some fullbacks look to get a breather when the ball's down the other end, he sees himself very much as wanting to be involved and wanting to get up there, and it's great to see. And maybe right back is his position after all.
He looks
not
more
doing too bad at it, is he?
Yeah, he's certainly he's influencing the attacking play much more than he has done sort of previously when he's been he's been dropped in there as a supposed fill-in. I don't think anybody's picking him out as being a particularly weak link in that Blackpool side by any means. That's credit to Connolly, to be honest. But it's sort of a measure of his versatility, because it seems that wherever you chuck him in, I mean, you could play the guy up top, to be honest, and lump balls at him. It's he's not an underrated player, because I think everybody appreciates his value.
And you can get 35, 40 games a season out of him, which, to be honest, with some of the players we've got, we're lucky to see half of that. We're lucky to see half of that out of them, aren't we? Because there's always players who seem to pick up more knocks than others, but he seems to be one who can play through anything.
He does go down a lot as well, but just pops back up and just gets on with it.
Yeah.
Speaking of injured players, it was good to see Cash on the bench.
I didn't even realise he was on the bench, because I didn't appreciate that. It's fantastic news, because and no disrespect to CJ, but I'd love to see him on that left hand side of that front three. But then we've got Lavery coming back after he's available on Tuesday night as well, isn't he? So options are becoming available, aren't they? Which is great, because that's what we need. I mean, that team picked itself, as we said at the start of the show, and there weren't many. I wasn't surprised when Appleton didn't make any changes, because I don't think there was actually anybody who, particularly the way certain players were playing, there's nobody who you would really have wanted to bring off, because I think we were playing at optimum.
Okay, as we've just discussed, the 20-minute period was more like a basketball game, going down end to end. They could have scored 2, we could have scored 2. But we did score the decisive goal, Tim. Jerry Yates, he's at it again. It said on the club's official Twitter feed, again with a Medina-esque header.
Yeah, and before we get to that, a really good cross from CJ, to be fair. It was an unpredictable cross, because it had a bit of curl on it that took it away from the keeper. And I think there was 2 players who were ever going to get that ball, and it was Medina or Yates, and Yates beat Medina to it, because they both went for it. And I mean, he's again a little bit better than one at Sheffield, but it reminded me a little bit of the Sheffield one, where he sent it back the same way that it's come, and that's a great header from a striker's perspective. That's what you want to see them do: send it right back in the opposite corner to where it's come. And then he loves it, doesn't he? He was straight in front of the Blackpool fans, just giving it the big star shaped salute. And he's a man on form. I think he's joint tops. He's still joint. I thought he was actually the top scorer. I think somebody said he's still joint top scorer. So that's fantastic to have a Blackpool player at the top of the hit parade. Is superb. Inevitably, that brings with it the vultures. I had me Bournemouth mate messaging me during the week saying, "Hey, we're in for him." And you've seen Rangers are, and the other teams are, but you're going to get that when you've got players on form and players who are setting the division alight. And if we didn't have that, then we wouldn't be performing. So the next one will be Carey. I'm fairly convinced there'll be people circulating and looking at him as well, particularly if he keeps up the last performances from the last week up. It's inevitable there's going to be people looking at him. But yeah, let's hope. Let's hope between now and we're not that we've got that many games before January, but that we can keep the momentum going, and that the enforced break doesn't stop us in our tracks, because you want to be playing you want to be playing twice a week all the time at the moment, don't you? When they're playing like they are doing at the moment.
Dead air is a crime. I was just looking up some stats then. 7 in 5 Jerry's got.
He won't be happy with just one yesterday, will he?
He was fair. I thought he was fairly quiet as well yesterday, compared to how he has been.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think he wasn't where everything. Last couple of games, everything seems to have gone through him, but probably not quite as much. I don't know if it was the way we were playing or the way he was being. Maybe it was the way he was being marked, possibly as well. Might have had something to do with it.
Maybe they were a little soft through the middle.
He was the one that was really, really causing them lots of problems all through the game. That's for you, Matt, by the way, if you're watching.
Oh, and obviously, yeah, Matt's not here. He's on holiday in some dank corner of the Lake District, no doubt in an old slate miner's cottage with the door hanging off the hinges and a leaking roof with no internet. And
I'm loving it. I'm loving it as well.
Yeah. The more misery, the better. Jerry's...
Can someone clarify something from the bookings yesterday? Because we got 4, I think, didn't we? But Kenny Dougal was one, and Chizzy when I was watching it back again today, was going on about it being his 6th booking, and I know he had some suspensions, and he seemed to think he was being suspended. He'd be suspended for the next game, but I'm not convinced.
If Chizzy said that, I think we can say safely that it's not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Take it with a dose of salt or whatever it is.
I think I heard somebody say his next suspension will be on 10 after 19 games, and then there's a reset. But that can't realistically happen because there's not enough. He'd have to get sent off. It couldn't actually work where he'd get that second suspension. So I'm fairly sure that you don't get suspended again after getting one more booking.
No, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
but I just wanted to clarify it because you just never know, do you?
Okay, let's go on to player ratings. Player ratings. Kev, you can go first with Chris Maxwell.
Oh, well. He's not had loads and loads to do, but what he's done, he's been solid.
Fingertipped one onto the post.
Yeah, it was a good save. There's a few that have dashed past his left hand post. I mean, in the interest of moving it on, I'd say he's a very solid 8.
He's weirdly, he didn't have a lot to do, did he? If I know what you're saying, he didn't have any.
Well, most of their shots were slightly off target, weren't they? So
yeah.
Their best ones. They had the one that went to the right that hit the back of the stanchion, and the one that went slightly to the left of the goal, which I think was their best chance of the second half. But they were both wide.
Near either of them, though. If they'd been on target, they'd have gone in.
But he can only do what he can do, can't he? He's, I'm a big fan of Grimshaw. Maxwell's a good keeper as well. It's a sort of luxury position for us to be in, isn't it? I think he's been excellent since he came back in.
Okay, that's 9. Was it 8 or 9?
An 8, but I'm not quite like Leanne, but I'm not one for willy-nilly 9s.
Callum Connolly, Pete, reliable as ever and almost getting amongst the goals again.
I thought he had possibly his best game of the season yesterday. He was brilliant in defence. He put some great balls through, some good crosses. He could have had a hat-trick. I think for me, it's got to be an 8.5 or a 9.
Please, can we get this right, Pete? 8 what?
8.5.
He needs.
I thought I love you watching the podcast.
Are you not aware of the fielding player rating system, the international
9
standard?
Then. He was better than an 8, so I'll give him a 9.
No, it's an 8+. 8+ is what.
8+. Sorry, 8+. Bloody hell, 8+.
I'll just make a note on the potential to extend the loan deal. That's a negative mark. Incorrect.
So I read John Jules over there.
Incorrect use of FPRS.
You've made me decide it was a 9. I thought it was excellent yesterday.
Yeah,
he was.
Yeah. Big Marv, Tim.
Yeah,
not
it was.
back
It was
to
a
his
bit.
best, is he?
It was a bit of a weird game, I thought. I don't really remember him having to do too much. I remember one really decent challenge in the first. It was the second half. I think it was the second half because it was the other far end. A really decent challenge he put in, where it was the opposite of what he'd been doing in recent weeks, where he'd end up packing players down, trying to do the same thing. But I thought it was an average day out for him.
Wasn't the pick of the centre half?
No, I would no, definitely not. I've got to go 7.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Kev Judd, who was the pick of the centre halves?
Well, is that a leading question there? He's a funny one, isn't he? I remember my footy mates in Sheffield that watch Wednesday. When we signed him, they told me how good this guy was. They said he's short, he's slow, he doesn't look very good, and frankly, that was my verdict of him.
He's very languid as well, isn't he?
Yeah. But he's a class act.
Gets the job done.
He's genuinely. Probably one of the players that I think in all the time I've watched Blackpool I've probably been most wrong about, and I thought he was great again. I mean, he loses a mark for the Megs on the goal, obviously, but yeah, he's marshal.
He just got skilled then, didn't he? He got skilled.
Yeah, and he's allowed. He's a unit. It was a good goal, but he's reading of the game. I mean, they've chucked their top man on the last 20 minutes, and he's dealt with that threat. He's clearly playing with a knock as well, because he's gone down holding that ankle again like last week. I'm gonna. Can I do him a 9-? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's
well, there you go, Kev. There. Right.
No, we are showing off.
Only got one loan contract. Right, who on now?
A bit harsh, I think, that personally.
Jimmy Husband, who are we on now? Who's doing this?
Pete, I think.
It's Pete, isn't it? Yeah, it's Pete.
See, I thought he had a really good game again as well. Apart from his cross was a bit naff, but he scored from. Again, he didn't do anything wrong. Good going forward, good defending. That's quite a good understanding with CJ. Was he as good as Callum? 8+.
There we go. And
I think,
Sir Kenneth of Dougal for you, Tim. It's funny how this always works out, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, as part,
I thought it was brilliant. I thought Dougal was brilliant.
I've got to say that we've spoken about it during the match, haven't we? That triumvirate in the middle, the three of them just seemed to blend so well. And Kenny's an integral part of it. I don't think it was his best game in a Blackpool shirt, but it was a very effective performance. So I'm going to go 8+.
He's got to bring this comment up from Michael Blackpool. When Judd went down with his ankle, referee Bond said, "Doctor, no."
They all think I've been underscored, Dougal, there, but I'm just trying to keep it real. It was 8+ is an excellent score.
He's changing my mind at the moment, I've got to say, because I've been sort of in the Leanne camp, and I think he's since Patino particularly has been in that midfield 3.
I think it's actually been since ever since Leanne's been slating him, he's upped his game. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they all listen in. So maybe she's just giving him that little bit of a fillip and a pick me up that he needed
yeah,
to reach his true heights.
He had a good shot again yesterday as well. So he's trying to get forward still. He had a good effort as well yesterday. I think it got blocked though, but it was still, he's still looking to shoot. And he never really did that last season, did he?
No, he's more of a goal threat this season, right? Sonny Carey, Pete.
He was probably, I don't know, between him and Gary and Connolly, he was absolutely what he should be, what I thought he was going to be when we signed him, and how he was when we played against Huddersfield, as was mentioned earlier. I thought he drove forward. He was controlling that midfield going forward completely. Some of the through balls he put as well were just, Tim mentioned them earlier, were fantastic.
Richard Hensall says 9+.
Yeah, I think Richard's right. I think that's what he was up there for man of the match for me.
Eddie says 8+ in the other room.
Sorry, Eddie. 9+.
Charlie Patino, Kev.
Well, this guy's unlikely to ever get a score lower than an 8 in his whole career, isn't he? As I said before, though, I think he's that good. I mean, bearing in mind, there is a slight caveat that he's just a child, but he's just got to get on the ball more. And if he's sort of pulling the strings in there, these little periods, I think, where opposition does, they do get on top and we can't get the ball down. You look into him and you're saying, "Come on, Charlie, you're the best player on this part, talent-wise, by a country mile. Get in this game," and that's the difference between the rather sort of miserly 8 that I'm going to give him and getting a 10 every week.
For me, he's an out ball. Get the ball to him; they're not getting it back. He can glide past the player and just take the pressure off and find space, can't he?
Obviously he's going out there and he's playing the game plan, but it's they want to play the ball out from the back, and it's these ones where Kenny's coming and he's trying to pick it up back to goal, and we're sort of getting ourselves in a tangle. And if you watch Charlie, he's sort of, he's sat in the hole waiting for the ball to come to him. Just go and get the thing. No, nobody's taking it off you.
That might come with time and experience. The more he plays, the more he might realise he can go and do that.
He's learning, and he's
a very quick. He's a slicer when you see him and you get up close to him. Like in the Armfield like last week, he is very much a boy still physically, and he's mixing it with some tough old players, isn't he? And
Bernie against Sheffield United, those sort of players. Kind of daunting.
And if they knock him down, he just seems to get back up, which is great to see. I think I agree. I agree with Kev though. I think we need to keep it real. It wasn't Dougal's best performance yesterday. It wasn't his best performance, but I think they were part of the blend that showcased Carey really a little bit yesterday.
I still think he'll be naffed off with that 8. I mean, you've got to be wary, haven't you? You don't want Steve McMahon coming around pinning me up against the wall for giving his star man.
Does he deserve an extra point for going to a Blackpool fans' birthday party last night?
I was just thinking that, Pete, as well. It's great.
That was an incredible story. That I don't know if everyone's heard about that, but apparently,
pray tell.
He got a message. Somebody tweeted him or did something saying it's my birthday party. Please,
60th, wasn't it?
Yeah, 60th. Yeah.
The daughter was asking.
Well, he just turned up.
Not only did he rock up, he rocked up with his dad and stayed for a few hours.
No way.
Yeah.
I thought you meant it was a child's party. That he was the right age to go to.
60th birthday party. And he turned up. And I think, he's going to be a bit of a legend, isn't he?
Shame he's going at the end of the season.
It's a great attitude to have, though, isn't it? And I've said this before on AVFTT and on here. You can tell he's been brought up really well and he's really grounded. And it'll go a long way because a lot of these young players, and we've seen it, haven't we? They come here and the really big bollocks and they drive up in the flash cars and are a bit aloof. And the reality is he's a very grounded young man and who's clearly loving playing in a proper competitive league and is loving the interaction with the fans and players don't do. He won't be able to do that back at Arsenal. And the reality is, it's fantastic that he's able to, to sort of bask in what it's like to be a professional footballer at a relatively early age still, and beloved. I think one of those vloggers, I'm not going to get the exact terminology right, but they said they can't get enough of that Patino. He's like their crack, their crack fix or whatever, because literally all game, off the game again, the Patino chants go in, he gets such great encouragement, and that's what we can do as a Blackpool fans, isn't it? It's give these lads. It happened with Charlie when he first joined us. He'd got, he played for Rangers and was getting a bit sticky if he gave the ball away. We never gave him any stick. And Patino's going to be able to try and do things here without somebody having a go at him if he gives possession away or if it doesn't quite happen. It's a great way to get your footballing schooling in for me. And we get to see a great player. We get to see a great player, mature, and somebody who we can, because he won't stay with us, clearly not, but we will be able to carry on watching him in future years and know that he played for us and he's still got that association with us.
It's our job to just enjoy it, isn't it? It's like Wes, Charlie, Bowler. It doesn't really matter whether they're your player or not. When you get players like that, once every blue moon, really, whether it's a year or 2 years, just enjoy it, and they'll enjoy it too, and everybody gets something out of it, don't they?
And Arsenal do really owe us one as well for inflicting us with Tyrese John Jules, the previous Arsenal loan. So it's 50-50.
We just need to get promoted this season and make a cheeky offer for him.
Yeah.
It's the only way we're getting.
Easy as that.
Why not?
Stranger things have happened.
Yeah.
Stranger things have happened. Like CJ Hamilton getting a 9 last week, Tim. Hey, good link.
Nice segue.
Incredible.
Yeah.
This is where you're supposed to score him, Tim.
Oh, yeah, but it's on me, is it?
Oh, is it Pete? Is it Pete? Sorry.
No, sorry, I'll take it.
I've lost the order.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I thought it was another good performance by him.
Put in order.
Probably not quite as headline making as the last one, where it was literally absolutely fantastic. What he did do a few times, particularly the first half, he used his pace to track back to cut possession out, which was good to see.
Got an assist as well. Assist for goal.
He got an assist for a goal, and he also laid the ball off for Hubby for the first one. So he's played his part, and I think it was another strong performance, and it's a performance that will see him keep the shirt. I'm sure it will do for Tuesday night. So it's an 8.
Tim, that bit of defensive intelligence he showed when shepherding the ball out as well. Don't know if you remember.
Yeah, that was the one where I said I thought it was fantastic because he'd actually, rather than use his pace going forward, he'd used it to get goal side of a player who to be fair, was clear away at the time, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So, it was really, really good to see working hard for the team and not just hanging around on the halfway line waiting for the ball to come to him. So, yeah, it was a really, really solid performance and long may it continue.
Well, yeah, what a turnaround day. We put
incredible.
Signed him to the bin, haven't we?
Yeah,
a lot of people had.
Rightly, arguably based on the performances he was putting out when he was putting the shirt on. But incredible.
Got a lot. I think Appleton's got to take a lot of credit for this. I think There's things going on behind the scenes that we don't see, and he's getting the best out of them.
Some of it will be that into the psychology of it all, won't it? Because we've seen with Jerry, haven't we? That
Another transformation
under Critchley, he was going nowhere. CJ was going nowhere, and all of a sudden, in a more, and I think this is a far more positive system than we had with Critchley, because, as I said this to the Coventry fans pre-match, because they were saying, "Oh, were you disappointed when he left?" I said, "Well, yeah, but in the end, no, because too many times if we went away and we weren't playing expansive football, we were playing very negative football to try and nullify the opposition. And Appleton does what I want to see from a Blackpool manager, and that is have the faith in the players to actually go out there and impose themselves on the game rather than have to try and nullify the threat. And we used to do it all the time, changing winning teams to try and nullify who we were playing, and it used to really get on my goat, to be honest. So, and that's not hindsight. We used to say it on this pod, didn't we? How frustrating it was that we were just constant. I remember going to QPR and the way we changed the formation, quite dramatically to try and eke out a result. So
he was overthinking things, wasn't he? Critchley overthought.
Yeah,
things.
Massively overthinking things, and Hamilton's probably, it's a little bit more basic as to regards the instruction that he's being given, and he's probably thriving on that, and thriving on a manager who's going out there and really seems to have faith in his ability.
Okay, let's move on to final two.
Oh, sorry. Go on.
Sorry,
I was just going to say, we used to go in the corners with Critchley as well, with about the last 15 minutes. The 15 minutes to go, we don't do that at all now. It's generally looking for another goal.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Mitch isn't here to wax lyrical about Gaz Medin's performance. Pete, you're going to have to do it. Are you up to the job?
I'm getting all the ones with I'm getting the best players of the day. Again, he's falling to bits at the moment, isn't he? How he put in that performance yesterday for 90 minutes. That's another thing. With no subs yesterday. When was the last time that happened?
Yeah.
We didn't put one player on, did we?
You thought he might have done it to run the clock down, but he just didn't do it at all.
I think that says a lot for the players that were out there. But Gary Medin was probably his best performance of the season.
Yeah, so.
So, yeah. And again, he's got to be 9+.
That's what was in my mind.
Could have had 3 goals in the first 10 minutes. Or am I being too generous?
Well, he had one chalked, a perfectly good goal chalked off as well. So technically, he's got 2 goals, hasn't he? Could have had hat-trick. Should have had 2.
He put another header across, exactly the same as he did last week for Gary to score. And he went across to Jerry to score. And somebody, they didn't get they couldn't put it in the net, but exactly the same from a corner from Patino, I think it was. Went deep and he headed it right across.
I think Mac's a bit harsh saying his finishing was dire.
Yeah.
I don't think any of his chances were that one way he was stretching. That was always going to be difficult because it was quite acrobatic that he got where he was. But I think, as I said to you before, the first one I originally thought that was a bad miss, but it wasn't.
The keeper's positioned himself very well for that first chance as well. He's made Medin work there, so a bit harsh there, ain't it? Let's tell you what Eddie's saying. Medin, so good.
He was.
Need to work on your grammar there, Eddie.
9+.
And to wrap this off, Jerry Yates, Kev. I think.
Yeah, we
mentioned not as brilliant as he was as against P&E, but brilliant nonetheless, and non-stop running as well. And one thing that stood out for me was him still chasing the ball down on 92 minutes and beating a player for pace.
Yeah, you sort of you know what you're getting from him at the moment, don't you? Look, he's had 2 chances in the game. He's done his river dance act and just sort of stuck it past the post, doesn't he? That could have easily been another Yates goal. And that ball comes over from CJ. There's only one man getting on the end of it. He's literally smelling blood, and he's elbowed Medina out the way, and the minute that you see him lurking on that back stick, you think that's a goal at the moment. And a few weeks ago, it wouldn't have been the case. But other than that, he's been. I think he was the foil for Gary yesterday. It just seemed to be the way that the game panned out. We got a bit of joy through the middle. Same score as I gave Maxwell and Charlie. I'm just going to give him an 8, but it's a very creditable 8.
I noticed at the end of the game, and I've not seen him. He literally collapsed into a heap on the floor. I think he'd given everything. I think Jack, that probably reflects what John was saying with him. Him chasing down the ball in the 92nd minute. He literally needed about 5 seconds, 10 seconds on the floor just to get his breath back. And that'd
have taken me 8 minutes to recover from that too.
Yeah,
8 seconds.
Yeah, he's a real asset, isn't he? Playing like he is at the moment.
Make it an 8+, Kev. Come on.
Well,
come on. Bump
sure, show, John.
Right, 8+.
Right. 8+ it is. Yeah.
Move on to manager rating. Another managerial masterclass from Neil Critchley, Tim.
Neil Critchley.
Sorry.
Oh.
I just said.
Do we have to restart the whole recording now?
What have I just said?
Isn't he on a job experience?
May God strike me down.
Work experience.
Are we gonna score the presenter in this show? Are we?
Come on, brain. Come on, brain. Michael Appleton, Tim, manager rating.
He's sticking by his principles, isn't he? And he literally a few weeks ago, he's had a tough gig trying to persuade people to trust him, and I think people are now starting to really trust him.
To trust the process, Tim. To trust the process.
Well, yeah, we might not use that word, and we won't do any badge kissing or fist pumping. But he is starting. You can see he's starting to grow into the job. He's starting to grow into everything that's going on, and very, very pleased for him. Because I said he had a tough start, not least being dragged down there into the basement at the Armfield and to prove he wasn't a knobber. But listen, he did it, and that's and I think we're all getting there. We're getting there with him, aren't we? And I'm loving the way we're playing football, just loving it. So it's a 9 from me.
Michael Appleton, manager rating. Michael Appleton, manager rating. Pete.
Gave him a 9.
No, Pete. I'm moving on.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were pulling.
Yeah, I thought it was just the one.
No. I'm cementing his name in my head, so don't say Neil Critchley again. That's what I was doing.
We did that.
Is
Self-talk.
that what it was?
Yeah.
Well, Neil Critchley obviously gets a 0 this week. But I would say I can't disagree with anything that Tim said, really. And I think the fact he kept them all on, I think that was a boost for them, just to say, well done, lads, see it through. So yeah, tactical masterclass yesterday. 9.
Kev?
Yeah, nothing to add really. I mean, the one thing that slightly interests me is how we keep some of these lads happy. That bench is starting to look quite tasty in many regards. I don't know what the situation is with Poveda, whether he's fit and just can't get a sniff, or whether he's still not quite there and he's one that might come into it after the World Cup. Obviously, Theo's played a lot early doors. Wright's not come here to play. Well, sit on the bench, has he? And he's looked decent in spells. We know what Critchley would have done. He'd have shuffled the pack. And I think certainly in the League One season, that was to our benefit, because we were still going great guns at the back end of the season. He's going to have, if he wants to send his best side out every week, which is what, to be honest, it's what we all want to see, isn't it? I think it's going to be tricky for him. But in terms of like yesterday, just called it right, didn't he? But it was an easy call to make, sending the same team out. just brave to send him out and play.
And Tim, just to round things off, it's the most animated I saw Michael Appleton at the end of the game. He's normally quite deadpan, isn't he? But he was loving that at the end, coming over to the fans as well. And I think
he started talking about the fans more, hasn't he? I've noticed in his post matches, and maybe because of the circumstances that led Critchley to leave and the issues over his associations with Preston, maybe took the deliberate decision to go reasonably low profile early on and not be too much in the forefront. But I think it starts with Preston, particularly last week, doesn't it? And then again this week, you didn't see him come over with the players originally, but now he's coming over with them and he's saluting the fans and being very much a part of it. And it's always easier when you've won, of course, but we seem to be making a little bit of a habit of it at the moment. And I generally think we are hopefully going to be looking up in the coming weeks, not looking down. That's what we hope. Hopefully that starts on Tuesday night with West Brom. Although typically, because they're on such a shit run of form, it's like it'll probably, knowing Blackpool, it'll probably be the opposite. But
Tim,
we've got to be confident going there, though, haven't we? We've got to be confident.
I usually think like that, but I don't think like that for this West Brom game, and I think we're going to turn up, and I think we're going to turn them over. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Normally, I wouldn't be going midweek to games because of all the commitments, but I'm making the effort to go. So you're going, aren't you, Tim, as well? I know you're going.
Yeah, and I think one thing is difficult because obviously it's not a cheap day out, is it? But people really need to get behind this team and Appleton and what they're trying to do, and hopefully we've got a good initiative going on with the Luton game, and it's like let's get people there, let's get people supporting them because they deserve it. And it's also great to see, even though our numbers were a bit down yesterday, weren't they, on previous years? But it's interesting that Coventry fans were all saying we're the loudest team who've been there this season, even though we haven't filled the place out like some of the perhaps more local teams have done. So teams keep saying that, don't they? And that's got So we're doing, the ones there are doing the bit because but let's sell it out on Saturday. Because it is listen, we've had a go at the £30 price point, haven't we? But it's far cheaper. 20 quid, isn't it, on Saturday, and £5 for kids. For mum or dad and lad or girl can go for 25 between them. That's the right price point to try and encourage waverers to come. And the other thing that will encourage waverers is the football. The football at the moment is great to watch. It's fantastic entertainment, and I'm going Tuesday night as well, where normally I wouldn't go midweek because it involves taking time off work, but I'm going to do it.
Same here.
So I'll see you there.
Kev, Pete, you going?
As long as my boss isn't listening to the podcast, then I should be there. Yeah.
Excellent. Right, see you there then.
No,
right.
Sadly, I won't be there, but I'll be watching.
Excellent. Okay, gents, thanks very much for your company this evening. I hope you both enjoyed yourselves.
Yeah,
it's been a dream come true, John.
That's what I like to hear. Yeah. That's what I like to hear.
Bucket list.
Seaside's podcast, we've got an exclusive show coming up very shortly. The match commander for the Preston game has agreed to come on and talk to us about the policing effort. So fair play to them. I'm just checking my phone. I can't remember his name, but we're going to get him on. He's going to be answering fans' questions. That's something to look forward to. Raggy's coming on as well, and we're going to be doing a reaction show after the West Brom game. So all remains to be said is thanks for watching, thanks for your comments, thanks for downloading, and up the pool are going up.
Up the pool.
Up the pool.